Lumix just dropped the S1 Mark II, and it's kind of a beast. In this video, I'm breaking down everything that's exciting, what's new, and which features might change your workflow. While it might look familiar on the outside to the S1R Mark II, this thing is hiding some serious upgrades under the hood. We're talking OpenGate 60, ARRI log, 70 frames per second raw photos, as well as 32-bit float audio. Now, if you're a video shooter, if you like ARRI color science, or you love shooting anamorphic, this camera will definitely catch your attention. To start off, let's talk about the S1II body and usability improvements, which are exactly the same as the S1R Mark II. We've got that fully articulating screen, and if you're coming from the S5II, the HDMI and USB-C ports have been relocated. So the camera screen is no longer blocked when you're using an external monitor. We also have a lock switch, the closed shutter at power off feature is great, programmable record buttons, tally lamps, recessed shutter dial, and more custom shooting modes. All of these little changes might not look too flashy on a spec sheet, but they make a huge difference when you're actually out there filming. And if you are new to Lumix or want to dig deeper into the ecosystem, I've released a full 1 hour and 22-minute tutorial on the S1R2, and I'll be doing a deep dive on the S1II soon as well. So hit that subscribe button if you want more hands-on Lumix content. Now let's talk specs. The S1II has 24.1 megapixel partially stacked sensor, which means faster readout, better rolling shutter control, and Lumix claims up to 15 stops of dynamic range when using dynamic range boost. Still shooters are going to like this one. 70 frames per second blackout-free shooting with the electronic shutter in 12-bit RAW or 60 frames per second in 14-bit. There's also the new HEIF photo format available if you want 10-bit compression with smaller file sizes, compared to the usual JPEGs, which are only 8-bit. Autofocus has seen improvements as well, including a new urban sports mode designed for fast-moving subjects like breakdancing, skateboarding, and just real-world unpredictable action. And facial detection has been refined as well. It can now track tilted or partially obscured faces, which is something previous models have struggled with, especially with eye tracking. I haven't had too much time to fully test out the autofocus as I've been mostly filming a commercial with anamorphic lenses, but it has been performing pretty well from the few tests I've done. And you might have noticed my ultra-thin Red HDMI cables, which are a fantastic choice for gimbal setups as they are light, they don't drag the gimbal, and they support 8K 60 and 4K 120. If you want to find out more, visit allred.nz and I'll leave a 20% coupon code in the description down below. The S1II also has a new AI auto white balance. Personally, I prefer to use manual control every time, but if you are shooting quick events or need to hand this camera to someone else, this could be a useful feature. Now the big one for video shooters is we finally have 5.1K OpenGate at 60 frames. For me, this one is one of the biggest upgrades, especially when shooting anamorphic. With the S1R Mark II, I had to drop down to 16:9 at 60 frames per second, which meant losing part of the image after desqueezing, but being able to shoot OpenGate slow motion at high resolution without compromise is huge for social content, cropping, reframing, and delivering both horizontal and vertical versions from one take. Next up, ARRI log C3. Yes, Lumix now gives you ARRI log on a full frame sensor. We first saw this with the Micro Four Thirds GH7, but to have it here is a big move. Personally, I still like shooting vlog. I've built my workflow around it, and I also build my own LUTs. And by the way, my vlog LUTs will be coming soon alongside a grading tutorial. If you are shooting with ARRI system and need a B cam, a gimbal cam, or even a drone cam to match the Alexa footage, this could be a really good option. False color is also built in. This is something we're used to seeing on cinema cameras like ARRIs and Reds and external monitors. So it's great to have it natively on a hybrid body. And Lumix has added a bunch of pro-friendly updates as well. We have Bluetooth timecode sync, DJI gimbal control via Bluetooth. There will be the new multiple frame markers feature, 32-bit float audio when paired with the new XLR adapter, essentially giving you raw audio with tons of flexibility in post. And talking about RAW, we have ProRes RAW recording up to 5.8K at 3.5 gigabits per second, so just make sure you have enough SSDs and media cards so they're up for it, as it's a big file format. And speaking of SSD drives, you can now offload your footage directly from the camera to an external drive, no laptop needed. If you ever wrapped a shoot in the rain, or your laptop is dead, or you just can't be bothered pulling it out, this feature will be really useful. There's 2 steps to make this work, and shout out to Richard Wong for figuring this one out. You first need to go to the USB SSD setting and turn that on, then go into the playback menu and select copy. And from that menu, you'll be able to select what you want to copy to your external drive. There's also the new CinemaScope aspect ratio mode 2.4:1. And yes, you could just technically film 16:9 or 3:2 and crop it later, but this gives you a baked-in aspect ratio for quick delivery and a more immersive composition straight out of camera. You can shoot up to 6K 60 in 2:4:1 aspect ratio. It's just another tool in your toolbox that Lumix has added into the S1II to get more of a cinematic look straight out of camera, and you could really combine this with the real-time LUT function and have a really nice baked-in look for quick turnaround content. Let's talk IBIS, because as always, Lumix is still ahead here. Electronic stabilization for anamorphic lenses is better, so compensation performance has been improved, so now it supports roll axis correction in addition to perspective distortion. Electronic image stabilization high mode is also now available for anamorphic. It crops in a lot more, but for slow handheld movements, it gives great results. Just remember, for fast, more complex parallax moves, stick with standard IBIS and turn off EIS. If you are an anamorphic shooter like me, definitely consider shooting on Lumix, as it is the only brand out there with IBIS for anamorphic lenses. Lumix cameras have the option to select between 1.33, 1.5, 1.8 and 2 times anamorphic D-squeeze. But I'm still waiting for the 1.6 times D-squeeze to be added from Lumix, so hopefully they can come at some point. But all other camera brands out there, IBIS just doesn't work with anamorphic lenses due to their different squeeze factors. So if you're using Sony or Nikon, you'll just need to turn off IBIS completely, forcing you to use a gimbal or a tripod to get smooth results. With Lumix, using IBIS, electronic stabilization and boost mode, I can single-handedly get a really nice and smooth shot just by holding the camera. And here are a few more features with the S1II. The camera can be used as a webcam over USB-C. Lumix Lab app pairing is a little bit quicker, and the new Lumix Flow app is really interesting. It lets you mark your favorite takes and builds a rough cut for you to import into your editing program. For example, music videos, it even stacks the performance takes vertically in the timeline. I haven't used it that much yet because Vlog Assist Preview and anamorphic support aren't there yet, but it's definitely something I'll explore down the line once those features get added. I haven't done full camera testing with this camera yet, as I only recently received the version 1 firmware, so only had a chance to shoot one commercial with the S1II, and so far the performance has been solid. I haven't experienced any overheating while shooting 5.1K 25 and 50 frames. HDMI lag is slightly better than the S5II, especially if you turn off HDMI audio, but it's still something that needs to be improved on the next cameras. Somehow 120 FPS is not available in S&Q mode, which is funny because it is on the S1R Mark II, but here S&Q only has 60 frames per second max. So if you want to shoot 120 frames per second, you'll have to slow it down in post. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're shooting in higher resolutions than 4K with higher frame rate, like 60 frames per second, with HDMI cable plugged in, the subject detection will be turned off. So in modes like 4.8K 60 frames, 5.1K 60 and 6K 60, autofocus will work, but there is no subject detection. So you'll have to drop down to 25 or 30 frames per second to get subject detection back with HDMI cable plugged in, or go down to 4K 50 or just unplug the HDMI cable, I guess. One more thing that launched alongside the Lumix S1II is the brand new Lumix 24-60 f2.8 lens. It's a great compact alternative to the standard 24-70. It's shorter, lighter, and it still holds that f2.8 aperture. I've mostly been shooting with anamorphic on the S1II, but from the little tests I've done with this lens, it performs well, and I actually quite like it when I paired it with my Lumix S9. It's a nice small f2.8 package. It is noticeably smaller than my version 1 Sigma 24-70 f2.8, and it does have a pretty good close focus. Plus, you get native support for cropless E-stabilization, which Sigma doesn't offer. And if you already own the Lumix 24-70, the main reason to consider this lens would just be the size. But I would personally love to see a 20-60 f2.8 version of this lens, as I really like the 20-60 focal length, just not the current 3.5 to 5.6 aperture. Over the next few months, I'll be putting the S1 Mark II through more real-world tests, so stay tuned for more in-depth content. Let me know in the comments what you're mostly excited about with the S1II, and if these features are enough for you to get one. And I'll see you in the next one.